is coming.
The World of Reptiles with Rom Whitaker. Where can you expect to find reptiles?
Well, urban-wise, of course, snakes have a pretty hard time. But you get out into the countryside, and what's very interesting is people say, don't go to the forest, it's full of snakes. But actually, you go into the forest and finding a snake is very difficult. But you go back to the rice fields and to the farms where there's plenty of rodents, plenty of rats and mice. That's where you find lots and lots of snakes. So that was a real eye-opener to me.
What are some interesting snake behaviors you've seen?
I think one of the most incredible things that I learned about snakes is when we started studying king cobras, which you probably know I've been spending a lot of time doing that. But king cobras, along with another species of snake in Australia called the diamond python, actually make nests. They make nests out of leaves to keep their eggs inside. Now, there are over 3,000 species of snakes in the world, and so far as we know, these are the only two which make a nest. But the fact that they can make a nest and incubate those eggs for 2 or 3 months inside, that's an incredible thing. But also, we're learning now that snakes like rattlesnakes in America are actually looking after their young for several weeks at a time and keeping them safe and protected. I mean, the fact that there's maternal care in snakes, and this was very surprising.
Do reptiles have unique personalities?
Oh yeah. I mean, again, it takes a while for you to start studying animals like this and to figure out whether they do have personalities, but they certainly do. Some are very excitable and very frightened and very quick to react, to push off or to even attack and defend themselves. Others are so placid and calm, maybe the same species of snake, but they definitely have pair bonding. And of course, when we keep snakes in captivity, the people who love to keep snakes as captive pets will swear to the fact that the snake knows them very well. Now, the interesting thing is snakes don't have ears, so they don't hear you calling them, come on, come on, come on, the way you do your dog or a cat. But they definitely react to other things. And the way you move, the way you hold them, they definitely react.
Can you tell us a bit about Jaws, the largest crocodile to live?
Well, yeah, let's go to the animal that we call Jaws, who was the biggest crocodile in captivity in India. We reared him up he was born in 1970, and we got him from something called the Central Leather Research Institute in Delhi. They were going to kill it and find out how much they could get for the skin. And I told him, look, wait a minute, don't kill it. We'll take him and keep him at the Madras Crocodile Bank and rear him up, and we can measure him and tell him how much he's worth. And over the years, little Jaws, who I started out carrying under my arm, became this monstrous 16-foot long, 500 kilogram saltwater crocodile.
Wow.
And we definitely had a bond going with him.
Yeah.
We could hand feed him and call him up. He responded to his name. So yes, crocodiles are very intelligent. We're going into another realm when we talk about crocs. They're very different from snakes. They have, well, for one thing, a great sense of hearing, which snakes don't have. So it's a whole new ball game when you come to crocodiles.
How are scientists studying reptiles?
Yeah, going back in studies of snakes have been going on for a long time, particularly in the United States and in parts of Europe. And in India, we've only started rather recently. But when we first started using radio telemetry, that was such an eye-opener. That's actually inserting a tiny radio, smaller than your thumb, inside the body cavity of a snake like a king cobra, which is the first snake we studied using radio telemetry, and actually being able to follow them around with an antenna, and the radio will give a beep beep sound, and you can actually follow it. And the way we did our studies and the way we continue to do our studies is to have volunteer trackers following the snakes all day long during their waking hours. Lucky for us, king cobras sort of get up quite comfortably at about 8 a.m., which is very perfect for humans. And they had a tendency to go to sleep at about 6 p.m.
Okay.
So perfect for us. They don't spend much time at night. So following these animals around, following the king cobra around, we're able to see exactly what they do. Their entire secret life is exposed to us. I mean, it sounds a little bit intrusive, but we're not bothering the snake at all. It goes on, does its mating, does its feeding, and in some cases the males do that wonderful male combat together. We've been able to not only see this, but to bring filmmakers and to make marvelous films about them as well. And this exposes all their secrets to the rest of the world. And that's exciting to me.
Is there anything still unknown to us about reptiles?
Well, I think there are literally hundreds of questions which we still want to figure out about snakes. I mean, how do they, for example, home back to the same place? When we followed king cobras around, we found that one king cobra, as you know, snakes have to shed their skins periodically. An adult king cobra might shed its skin 4 or 5 times a year. And this one particular king cobra that we followed always came back to the same spot, because before they shed their skins, they go into a molting phase and their eyes get clouded over and they can't really do much, so they have to stay hidden because they're very vulnerable at that time. And this particular snake always came back to the same burrow. And this burrow was many kilometers away from where the snake was usually traveling around, finding a mate, finding its food. But it always homed back to this precise spot. How? We have no idea how it does it. Is it magnetic? Is it something to do with the smell and the sight of the place? What is it? Or maybe a combination of all these factors. But these are mysteries which we still have to find out.
Many of us fear snakes, but what about the snakes?
Well, it's interesting. Snakes are, I call snakes innocent animals. Snakes are very frightened of human beings. I mean, the way I look at it, or the way a snake looks at it in particular, a snake is way, way down on the ground looking up at these monstrous giants walking around us humans. And I think all of us acknowledge the fact that humans are the most dangerous animals in the world. And although we are scared of snakes, you've got to remember they're very scared of us. And they want nothing to do with us and to be left completely alone, if possible. So that's the way it really is.
How did the fear of snakes evolve in humans?
It's difficult to say, but I think it goes back, and a very famous herpetologist in Australia has recently come out, well, people have come out with the theory that primates, of course, from which we evolved from monkeys, were actually very, very aware, and as they evolved, that snakes were dangerous. And their eyesight increased and got better and better. And in fact, our eyesight is definitely based on the fact that monkey eyesight became so good and so careful and so easily adapted to detect snakes. And in other words, you could say that snakes are responsible for the fact that we can read and write and do everything with our eyes today. So it's an interesting theory, and there's a lot of sense in it too.
How can we avoid scaring a snake?
Well, a snake, as I said, is very, very frightened of these huge human beings wandering around. And if we were much more careful in the way we walk, in the way where we put our hands, and sleeping at night under a mosquito net, using a torch when we're walking around at night, these accidents wouldn't happen, because snake bites are accidents. And the snake certainly doesn't want to bite us. In fact, he wants nothing to do with us. But if it's stepped upon, it feels threatened. It feels like its life is threatened, and it bites in defense. So these are defensive activities of a snake.
How do we put aside our fear of snakes and explore nature?
Well, I don't know. I think first of all, people have to have an appreciation of wild animals and wild creatures to begin with. When you start looking closely at these things, if you just take a bit of time and forget these fears and forget these superstitions, and you actually look at the animals, they're marvelous and they're beautiful. I mean, the array of colors in the different species of snakes is equivalent to the array of colors in butterflies, which most people like, of course, little flitting around, very harmless creatures. But in fact, snakes, not only are they beautiful, they're so graceful, the way they move, and it's uncanny, and it's alien to us, the way they're able to move so smoothly and so effortlessly, without legs, without arms. So yeah, there's something fascinating about snakes. That's another very important point. People may be frightened of snakes, but they're always interested in snakes. They're fascinated by them.
What myths can we bust about reptiles?
Yeah, all the myths and superstitions and stories about snakes are endless. And the trouble is, feature films, they brought out Nagini, and man, if you kill a snake, the mate will come and take revenge and all this stuff. I mean, these stories go on and on. And they're all, of course, false, but people grab onto them and believe them and give snakes such a horrible reputation. So let's be a little bit practical about it. Snakes don't have the kind of brain humans have, and they don't seek revenge, that's for sure. And yeah, what a lot of malarkey all these stories are. So let's talk about the real things about snakes, and they're fascinating. Some of the things we've talked about already, they're just marvelous animals, and them in themselves, people who study snakes, are revealing more and more of their wonderful secrets. We actually know very little about snakes' memory and this kind of stuff, but the trouble is humans put their own sort of strange feelings about each other into the minds of snakes, which is of course not true. And snakes have got a fairly simple mind compared to a human's mind, and they certainly don't want to take revenge or do anything like that.
How can we change people's perceptions about reptiles?
I think educating people about snakes is very similar to the way I first learned about snakes, observing them and seeing how fascinating and really wonderful they are. But, you know, through films, for example, that's why I got into filmmaking years ago, because I realized that although people come into the snake park or to the crocodile bank, hundreds of thousands of people come there, yes, but with movies we could reach millions of people, and we did, worldwide. The thing is, we depend on scientists and researchers to find out the interesting facts about snakes, but how to sort of take that field work which they do and put it into the hands and into the minds of people around the world. Films are just the way to do it, and TV has really opened the eyes of people to snakes in a great way.